The weight of impossible choices. Natalie Brooks stared at the hospital bill in her trembling hands. $87,000. The number seemed to grow larger every time she looked at it, swallowing her whole. Her father's heart surgery had saved his life, but now the debt threatened to destroy everything they had left. At 27, Natalie had already mastered the art of surviving on 3 hours of sleep. Her morning started at 5 with her barista shift at Cornerstone Cafe. By noon, she was racing across town to her afternoon job at a boutique marketing firm. Evenings found her taking freelance graphic design projects until her eyes burned and her fingers cramped. Yet somehow, the mountain of debt only grew taller. She lived in a cramped studio apartment where the radiator clanked through winter nights and the summer heat made sleep impossible. Her wardrobe consisted of thrift store finds and hand-me-downs. But none of that mattered as much as keeping her father alive and housed in his small retirement community. Tonight was different. Tonight, her boss had insisted she attend the annual Rothwell Foundation charity gala as the firm's representative. Natalie had borrowed a simple black dress from her roommate and spent her last $20 on a cab because the subway would have made her late. A dangerous encounter. The Grandview Hotel ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and designer gowns. Natalie felt like an imposter among the crowd of millionaires and socialites. She clutched a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking and tried to blend into the elegant wallpaper. That's when she collided with him. One moment she was stepping backward to avoid a careless waiter. The next, her champagne glass tipped forward, spilling its entire contents down the front of an impeccably tailored Tom Ford suit. Natalie's heart stopped. The man wearing the suit turned slowly, and she found herself staring up into the coldest gray eyes she had ever seen. Damien Rothwell. Even someone as disconnected from high society as Natalie knew that face. Forbes had called him the youngest self-made billionaire in real estate. Business Insider had labeled him the Ice King of Manhattan. Tabloids whispered about his ruthless business tactics and the trail of broken competitors he left behind. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair styled with deliberate carelessness and a jawline that belonged on a magazine cover. But it was his eyes that struck her. They held no warmth, no forgiveness, no humanity. "I am so sorry," Natalie stammered, grabbing napkins from a nearby table. "I didn't see you. Let me help. Don't touch me." His voice was low, controlled, and sharp enough to cut glass. Natalie froze, the napkins clutched uselessly in her hand. Around them, conversations had stopped. People were staring. "It was an accident," she said, lifting her chin despite the flush creeping up her neck. "I apologized. An accident." Damien's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Do you have any idea what this suit costs?" "Probably more than I make in 6 months," Natalie shot back, her embarrassment hardening into defiance. "But I notice you're still standing, still breathing, and still capable of being unnecessarily cruel to someone who made a simple mistake." The crowd around them had gone silent. No one spoke to Damien Rothwell like that. Ever. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Then something flickered in those gray eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or interest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Why? So you can sue me?" Natalie's hands shook, but she refused to look away. "Answer the question." "Natalie Brooks. And before you ask, no, I don't have $80,000 to replace your suit. I don't even have $80. The words tumbled out before she could stop them, her exhaustion and stress bleeding through her careful composure. Damien tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. 80,000. That's a very specific number. Natalie felt her face burn. She had said too much. "Excuse me. I need to go." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Wait." Something in his tone made her pause. It wasn't a command exactly, though Damien Rothwell clearly wasn't used to asking for anything. Natalie turned back slowly. "You're in debt," he stated, not asked. "That's none of your business." "Medical debt, I'm guessing." "The way you carry yourself, the exhaustion in your eyes, the desperation." He said it clinically, like he was analyzing a business proposal. "Someone you care about is sick." Natalie's throat tightened. "My father had heart surgery 3 months ago. I'm handling it." Clearly. His gaze swept over her borrowed dress, her worn shoes. "How many jobs are you working?" "That's really none of your concern, Mr. Rothwell." "Call me Damien." He pulled out his phone, typed something, then looked back at her. "I have a proposal for you, Natalie Brooks. The proposal that changes everything." Natalie laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "A proposal? You don't even know me." "I know enough." Damien slipped his phone back into his pocket. "You're desperate, drowning in debt, and too proud to ask for help. You're also the first person in years who's had the courage to challenge me in public. I'm not desperate enough to listen to whatever scheme you're cooking up." 30 days, Damien said, and the ballroom around them seemed to fade away. "Give me 30 days of your time. You move into my penthouse. You accompany me to business events, dinners, and meetings. You maintain the appearance of being in my life." Natalie's stomach twisted. "You want to pay me to be your escort. I want to pay you to be present. Nothing physical. Nothing inappropriate. Simply your company, your time, and your discretion." His eyes never left hers. "In exchange, I'll pay every cent of your father's medical debt. All $87,000. Plus a bonus of $50,000 for your trouble." The world tilted. Natalie grabbed the back of a nearby chair to steady herself. $137,000. Enough to save her father. Enough to finally sleep at night. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you offer this to a complete stranger?" Damien's expression remained unreadable. "Because I need someone who doesn't want anything from me beyond the paycheck. Someone who won't fall in love with the money or the lifestyle. Someone who will walk away when the 30 days are over." "And you think that's me? You spilled champagne on me and called me cruel to my face. You're either fearless or foolish, and right now, I need fearless." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" Natalie stared at his outstretched hand. Everything in her screamed that this was wrong, dangerous, a trap waiting to spring. Damien Rothwell was a man who built empires and crushed opponents. He was calculating, cold, and clearly manipulating her desperation. But her father's face flashed in her mind. The way he smiled when she visited, pretending he didn't notice how exhausted she looked. The medical bills arriving every week. The phone calls from collection agencies. She thought about the life she was living, working herself to death just to stay barely afloat. 30 days. Just 30 days, and all of it would be over. Natalie took a deep breath and placed her hand in his. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected jolt through her arm. 30 days, she agreed, her voice steadier than she felt. "But we put it in writing. Every detail. Every expectation." "Of course." Damien's lips curved into the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. It transformed his face, made him almost human. "Almost. I'll have my lawyer draw up the contract tomorrow. Can you start on Monday? I need to give notice at my jobs. Quit them tomorrow. I'll compensate you for the lost income." He released her hand and straightened his champagne-stained jacket. "This is a business arrangement, Natalie. I value efficiency and discretion above all else. Don't make me regret choosing you. Don't make me regret saying yes," she countered. Damien studied her for another long moment, and something unreadable passed across his face. I don't think I will, Miss Brooks. I don't think I will. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of beautiful people, leaving Natalie standing alone with her racing heart and the terrible certainty that she had just made a deal with the devil himself. She had no idea that Damien Rothwell had just made his first miscalculation in 15 years. He had assumed he could control this arrangement. He had assumed 30 days meant nothing. He had assumed his heart was as frozen as everyone believed. He was wrong, moving into the glass fortress. Monday morning arrived with the weight of 1,000 regrets. Natalie stood outside Damien Rothwell's building on the Upper East Side, a single worn suitcase at her feet, staring up at the gleaming tower that pierced the Manhattan skyline. The doorman, dressed more expensively than she was, eyed her with barely concealed skepticism. "Natalie Brooks," she said, her voice smaller than she intended. "Mr. Rothwell is expecting me." The doorman's expression shifted from skepticism to shock. He spoke quickly into his earpiece, then gestured toward the entrance with newfound respect. "Of course, Miss Brooks. The private elevator is this way." The elevator ride to the penthouse took 47 seconds. Natalie counted each one, her heart hammering against her ribs. The contract she'd signed on Saturday sat heavy in her purse. 3 pages of legal language that boiled down to one simple truth: for the next 30 days, her life belonged to Damien Rothwell. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, and Natalie's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park and the Manhattan skyline. Everything was steel, glass, and cold marble. Modern art hung on walls painted in shades of gray and white. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum, not a home. There were no photographs, no personal touches, no warmth. It was beautiful and absolutely lifeless. "You're late." Damien's voice came from behind her. Natalie spun around. He stood in the doorway of what appeared to be a home office, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Even casual, he radiated power and control. "I'm 3 minutes early," she said, checking her phone. "I expected you at 8. It's 8:03. He crossed the room with measured steps and handed her a leather folder. "Your schedule, building access codes, and the rules." "Rules." Natalie opened the folder, scanning the typed pages. "Of course there are rules. Did you expect anything less?" "The rules of engagement." Natalie read through the list, her eyebrows climbing higher with each line. Rule 1: Maintain professional appearance at all times. A wardrobe has been prepared in your suite. Rule 2: Attend all scheduled events and meetings without complaint or excuse. Rule 3: No personal visitors to the penthouse without prior approval. Rule 4: Respect privacy. The master bedroom and home office are off limits. Rule 5: Meals will be shared when schedules align. Punctuality is expected. Rule 6: Discretion is paramount. Discussion of this arrangement with outsiders will result in immediate termination of the contract. Rule 7: Maintain separate quarters. Physical boundaries will be respected at all times. "This reads like a prison sentence," Natalie muttered. "This reads like a business arrangement, which is exactly what it is." Damien gestured toward a hallway. "Your suite is the second door on the left. We have a dinner meeting tonight at 7. Business casual. Don't be late." He turned to walk away, but Natalie's voice stopped him. "Do you treat everyone in your life like employees?" Damien paused, his back still to her. "Everyone in my life is an employee, Miss Brooks. The sooner you understand that, the easier these 30 days will be." He disappeared into his office, and the door clicked shut with a finality that echoed through the empty penthouse. Natalie wheeled her suitcase down the hall, fighting the urge to run back to the elevator. The guest suite was larger than her entire studio apartment. The bed was king-sized with Egyptian cotton sheets. The attached bathroom featured a rainfall shower and a soaking tub. The walk-in closet was stocked with designer clothes in her exact size, tags still attached. She sat on the edge of the bed and called her father. "Natalie, sweetheart," his warm voice filled her ear. "How's the new job?" She had told him about a fictional position as a personal assistant to a wealthy businessman. Not entirely a lie, she rationalized. "It's different, Dad. Really different." She traced patterns on the silk bedspread. "But the pay is good. Really good. Your medical bills are taken care of." The silence on the other end stretched so long she thought the call had dropped. "Natalie Rose Brooks," her father finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "What did you do?" "Nothing illegal or immoral, I promise. I just got very lucky." The lie tasted bitter. "I need you to trust me, okay? I've always trusted you, sweetheart. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you're safe. Promise me you're not sacrificing yourself for me." Natalie closed her eyes, tears burning behind her eyelids. "I promise, Dad. I'm safe." After they hung up, she allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Then she washed her face, explored the designer wardrobe, and prepared for whatever came next. The first battle. Dinner that night was at an exclusive restaurant where reservations required a 3-month wait and a personal connection to the owner. Natalie wore a burgundy dress from her new closet that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to. Damien barely glanced at her when she emerged from her suite at precisely 6:45. The car ride was silent. The restaurant was a study in understated elegance and astronomically priced tiny portions. Their dinner companions were a married couple, the Harrisons, who owned a commercial real estate empire Damien wanted to acquire. "So, Natalie," Mrs. Harrison said, her smile sharp as broken glass. "How did you and Damien meet?" Natalie felt Damien's gaze on her, testing her. "I spilled champagne on him at a charity gala." Mr. Harrison nearly choked on his wine. Even Damien's eyebrows rose slightly. Mrs. Harrison laughed, a genuine sound. "Finally, someone who treats him like a human being instead of a god. I like you already, dear." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of business talk and polite conversation. Natalie found herself oddly comfortable, jumping into discussions about market trends and property values. She had learned enough from her marketing job to hold her own, and her fresh perspective seemed to intrigue the Harrisons. On the car ride home, Damien finally spoke. "You did well tonight. Is that your version of a thank you?" "It's an observation. You're impossible, you know that." Natalie turned to face him in the back of the town car. "Do you ever just have a normal conversation? Say please or thank you. Smile without looking like it causes you physical pain. Pleasantries are a waste of time." "Humanity isn't a waste of time, Damien." His jaw tightened. "You've known me for 4 days, Natalie. Don't presume to lecture me about humanity. Someone needs to." She crossed her arms. "You live in a glass tower with no photographs, no color, no life. You treat people like chess pieces. You hide behind rules and contracts because actual human connection terrifies you." The car pulled up to his building, but neither of them moved. "You think you have me figured out?" Damien's voice was dangerously quiet. "I think you want everyone to believe you're made of ice. But I think that's exactly what it is. An act. A shield." Natalie opened her car door. "Good night, Damien. Thank you for dinner." She walked into the building before he could respond, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. Behind her, still sitting in the car, Damien Rothwell stared after her with an expression he hadn't worn in a decade. Confusion. Cracks in the ice. The next 2 weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Natalie discovered that Damien woke at 5 every morning and spent an hour in his home gym. She started waking early too, making coffee and leaving a cup for him on the kitchen counter. He never thanked her. But he never told her to stop either. She accompanied him to business lunches, gallery openings, and strategy meetings. She learned that he took his coffee black, hated small talk, and had a tell when he was about to close a major deal. His left hand would tap once against his thigh, so quick most people missed it. She also learned he never laughed. Never relaxed. Never let his guard down for even a moment. Until the night she found him standing by the penthouse windows at 2 a.m, staring out at the city with an expression of such profound loneliness that it made her chest ache. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly, padding into the living room in her pajamas. Damien didn't turn around. "I don't sleep much." "Neither do I." Natalie joined him at the window, maintaining a careful distance. "Too many years of working 3 jobs, I guess. My body forgot how to rest. That makes 2 of us." They stood in silence, watching the city lights twinkle below. Natalie counted 17 breaths before she spoke again. "Why did you really make that deal with me, Damien?" "I told you why." "You told me a reason." "Not the reason." She risked a glance at his profile. "You could have hired an actress, a professional. Someone trained to play a part. Instead, you chose a broke barista who spilled champagne on you." Damien's reflection in the glass showed the ghost of a smile. "You reminded me of someone." "Who?" "Myself. 10 years ago, before I learned that emotions are liabilities and trust is a luxury I can't afford." He finally turned to face her. "You still fight, Natalie. You still feel." I wanted to remember what that was like. The vulnerability in his voice caught her off guard. This was not the Ice King of Manhattan. This was just a man, tired and alone in his glass fortress. "What happened to you?" Natalie whispered. For a moment, she thought he might answer. His lips parted, and something raw flickered in his gray eyes. Then his walls slammed back into place. "Good night, Miss Brooks." He walked away, leaving her alone with the city lights and a heart that was starting to feel things she had no business feeling. The business trip. 3 days later, Damien announced they were flying to Boston for an important acquisition meeting. Natalie packed an overnight bag and tried to ignore the flutter of nerves in her stomach. The private jet was another reminder of the vast gulf between their worlds. Leather seats, a full bar, and a bedroom in the back. Damien spent the flight reviewing contracts while Natalie pretended to read a magazine. The meeting in Boston was brutal. The target company's CEO, a silver-haired shark named Gregory Burke, clearly enjoyed making Damien uncomfortable. He asked invasive questions about Natalie, made inappropriate comments about her appearance, and generally behaved like every toxic businessman stereotype rolled into one. Natalie watched Damien's composure never crack. He deflected, redirected, and ultimately secured the deal with icy precision. But she saw the cost. The way his shoulders tensed. The slight tightening around his eyes. That night, at the hotel bar, Burke cornered Natalie while Damien was on a phone call. "You're smart to attach yourself to Rothwell," Burke said, his breath reeking of whiskey. "But guys like him, they get bored. When he tosses you aside, give me a call." He placed a business card in her hand and squeezed her wrist just a bit too hard. "Remove your hand," Natalie said coldly, "or lose it." Feisty. "I like that. The lady asked you to let go." Damien's voice was arctic. He appeared at Natalie's side, and suddenly Burke's confident smirk vanished. "We were just talking, Rothwell. And now you're leaving." Damien's gray eyes had gone flat and dangerous. "If I ever see you within 10 feet of her again, I will destroy your company, your reputation, and everything you've built. Am I clear?" Burke retreated, muttering apologies. Natalie rubbed her wrist where his fingers had dug in. "I had that handled." "I know you did." Damien's eyes scanned her face, checking for damage. But he needed to understand that you're under my protection. Is that what I am? Your property to protect? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Natalie challenged. Damien opened his mouth, closed it, then ran a hand through his hair in the first gesture of uncertainty she'd ever seen from him. I don't know. But when I saw him touching you, I wanted to break his hand. The confession hung between them, dangerous and electric. Damien, Natalie breathed. He stepped closer. Too close. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, smell his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. This is a mistake, he said, but he didn't move away. Probably. Natalie's heart raced so fast she felt dizzy. We have a contract. Rules. Boundaries. Yes. Neither of them moved. The air between them crackled with everything they weren't saying, everything they couldn't admit. Finally, Damien stepped back. It's late. You should get some rest. He walked away, and Natalie sagged against the bar, her entire body shaking. 15 days left. Just 15 more days. She could survive this. She had to. Because the alternative was falling for a man who had explicitly told her he couldn't love anyone. And that was a deal she could never afford to make, the locked room. Day 18 brought an unexpected break in Damien's carefully controlled routine. He left for an early morning meeting, and for the first time since moving in, Natalie found herself alone in the penthouse for more than an hour. She made coffee, answered emails on her new laptop, provided by Damien, of course, and found herself wandering the halls of the glass fortress. Every room she'd seen was immaculate, impersonal, cold. But there was one door she'd never seen open. The door across from Damien's master bedroom that wasn't mentioned in the rules because it didn't need to be. It was locked. Natalie pressed her ear against the dark wood, heard nothing, then immediately felt ridiculous. This was none of her business. Damien was entitled to his privacy. She turned to walk away. The door was slightly ajar. She froze. It had been locked seconds ago. She was certain. But now it stood open maybe an inch, as if inviting her inside. Don't do it, she whispered to herself. This is how people die in horror movies. But curiosity pulled her forward. She pushed the door open slowly, half expecting alarms to sound. The room was small, nothing like the spacious minimalism of the rest of the penthouse. The walls were covered in photographs. Not the carefully curated art that hung elsewhere, but real photos. Candid shots. Memories. A young Damien, maybe 19 or 20, with longer hair and an actual smile. He had his arm around a beautiful woman with kind eyes and dark hair. In another photo, the same woman held a baby. In another, Damien was kissing her forehead while she laughed. Natalie's throat tightened. There were newspaper clippings too. Wedding announcements. Then, with a gap of several years, obituaries. Rebecca and Rothwell, beloved wife and mother, taken too soon at 27. And smaller, more heartbreaking, baby Rothwell, stillborn. What are you doing in here? Natalie spun around. Damien stood in the doorway, his face drained of color, his hands clenched into fists. The door was open, Natalie said quickly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, but it was open and I just wanted to understand. Get out. His voice was barely a whisper, but it cut like a knife. Damien, I'm sorry. Get out. The shout was raw, anguished, nothing like his usual controlled tone. Natalie fled the room. Behind her, she heard the door slam so hard the walls shook. Then, through the wood, she heard something that broke her heart. Damien Rothwell was crying. The truth surfaces. She spent the rest of the day in her suite, sick with guilt. She had violated his privacy, invaded the one sacred space he kept. She drafted a dozen apology texts and deleted them all. Words felt inadequate. At 7 that evening, there was a knock on her door. Damien stood in the hallway, composed again, his mask firmly back in place. "We need to talk." They sat in the living room, an entire couch between them. Damien stared out at the darkening city, and when he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "Her name was Rebecca. We met in college. I was nobody then, just a scholarship kid working 3 jobs to stay enrolled. She was pre-med, brilliant, kind. She saw something in me no one else did." He paused, swallowing hard. "We got married the day after graduation. I started my first company. She supported every crazy idea, every risk. When she got pregnant, I promised her I'd build an empire. That our child would never struggle like I had." Natalie's eyes burned with unshed tears. "She went into labor at 32 weeks. There were complications. They tried everything." His voice cracked. "I held our daughter for 17 minutes before she stopped breathing. Rebecca hemorrhaged. They couldn't stop it. I lost them both in the same night." "Damien," Natalie whispered, moving closer despite herself. "I'm so sorry. I was 26. I had $50,000 to my name and a dream that felt pointless without them. Everyone expected me to fall apart. Instead, I became this." He gestured at the penthouse, at himself. "I turned off everything that hurt. Emotions became weaknesses. Love became a liability. Control became everything. That's not living. That's surviving. Survival was all I could manage." He finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. "Then you walked into my life, spilled champagne on me, and reminded me what I'd given up. You make me feel again, Natalie. And it terrifies me more than anything I've faced." Natalie closed the distance between them, taking his hand. His fingers intertwined with hers, gripping tight like she was his anchor. "You don't have to be terrified alone," she said softly. "I don't know how to do this. How to feel without falling apart. Maybe falling apart is okay. Maybe that's how you heal." They sat in silence, hands joined, as the city lights blinked on below them. Natalie knew she was crossing every boundary they'd established, violating every rule in the contract. But some things mattered more than agreements written on paper. The revelation. Day 25 arrived with an unexpected visitor. Natalie answered the penthouse door to find a sharp-dressed woman in her 50s carrying a leather briefcase. "I'm looking for Damien Rothwell," the woman said. "Tell him Judith Payne is here." Damien appeared from his office, his expression carefully neutral. "Judith. I wasn't expecting you. We need to talk. Privately." Damien glanced at Natalie. "Anything you need to say can be said in front of her." Judith's eyebrows rose. "Very well. The board vote is scheduled for next week. Thanks to your recent show of stability, they're prepared to extend your contract as CEO for another 5 years. Congratulations, Damien. Your gamble paid off." The words hit Natalie like a physical blow. "Gamble?"